Welcome to the June 25th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission and Urban Forestry Board. I am calling this meeting to order. Thank you for your patience while we got the IT display up and running. The city would like to remind all participants that the business of the PRC shall be conducted in an orderly manner. Disruptive comments or conduct that impedes the board's business or infringe on the rights of other participants will not be tolerated. The board welcomes all orderly, non-threatening public comments regarding matters over which the board has jurisdiction. Comments or conduct deemed otherwise by the chair will be grounds for terminating a speaker's comment period and/or participation at this hearing. Continued disruptions will be the grounds for removal from this hearing. With that, Allison, could we have a roll call, please?
We can. We have Commissioner Bryant.
Here.
Commissioner Helios.
Here.
Commissioner Summer.
Here.
Vice Chair Mitchner.
Here.
And Chair Davis.
Here. Next item number 3 on the agenda are the minutes. Do the commission members have any comments or suggested edits? Seeing no indication, we will open it up for public comment. Anyone in the attendance that would like to provide public comment on this item can fill out a blue card or raise your hand if you're online. There'll be a 3-minute limit for any speaker, and Allison will give you a 1-minute warning. Staff will not respond to questions during public comment. Are there any public comments regarding the minutes?
No one online.
Seeing none, I will entertain commission discussion or a motion. I'll move approval of the minutes.
Second.
We have Commissioner Bryant.
Yes.
Commissioner Helios.
Yes.
Commissioner Summer.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mitchner.
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes. And on to item number 4, oral communications from the public. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and state law prohibits the commission from acting on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the commission on a non-agenda item?
We have one online, Bruce England.
Mr. England, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, and hello, PRC members, commissioners, and staff. Bruce England, Wisman Station Drive, also a member of Green Spaces Mountain View. Just 2 things I wanted to bring up. One, I think I brought this up before, but I don't know if you want to call it a disclaimer or caution or something about people making comments and not being in their best behavior. That was something that came from City Council some months back. And City Council and other advisory bodies have dropped it at this point because the problem that occurred last fall seems to have pretty much disappeared. So if you want to save some time, that might be one thing you can do. It's not very long, but you know, when it gets to be 10 o'clock or something, you kind of want to move on. So anyway, something to consider. What I want to mention is, you know, a lot of us in Green Spaces have come to these meetings and we talk about our feeling that we don't want any existing trees removed, and we do feel strongly about that. However, we find ourselves bringing this up project by project, and we're uncomfortable with telling our neighbors that we don't want them to cut down their trees. In a lot of cases, they've given it a lot of thought, and they know what they're doing, but that's not true in other cases. And yet we find ourselves having to get into those kind of discussions about whether it's right and appropriate for them to remove trees. So I'm bringing it up now instead of during the agenda items when you're talking about individual projects and properties, as just an overall comment that we're not comfortable with the number of trees that are being removed in our city. And we're very adamant that we want to see the biodiversity strategy and urban forest plan completed with the guidance that you all need when you're doing your hearings that will help to streamline your process instead of having to go over things individually because you do not have the updated guidelines that you really need. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. England. And do we have any other members of the public that wish to address the commission?
Nobody online.
All right, with that, I'll close oral communications from the public, and we will move on to item 5.1, the heritage tree removal application appeal for 1158 Cuesta Drive, Modesto, Ash. Before we get into that, I will again introduce our two city attorneys. We're pleased to have Assistant City Attorney Diana Fazeli. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Pretty good. I'm
Yep.
getting better at that.
Mhm.
And Attorney Fazeli will be representing city staff or guiding city staff. Senior Assistant City Attorney Dave Wilgus will support the Urban Forest Board. Thank you, Mr. Wilgus. So with that, we will turn to the staff presentation and report.
Excellent. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate you coming in this evening. Russell Hanson, Urban Forest Manager with the City of Mountain View. Before we get into the specifics about both of these applications this evening, just wanted to point out that there was an error made in the staff memo at one point where we noted that these trees were declared heritage because they were over 12 inches. That actually should have read 48 inches. These are not oak, cedars, or redwoods that are ultimately protected lower. So just wanted to clarify that there was that error that was made in the staff memo. So beyond that, we'll go ahead and we'll get started with the first tree that we're going to talk about this evening. That is the Modesto ash that is located in the rear of the property, as you can see from the photograph above. About, I'll say 15 feet or so from both property lines, rear and left-hand side property line, as a general approximation. The tree itself is a Modesto ash. Has a 40-inch diameter when measured at 54 inches above grade. Overall height, we estimated to be about 40 feet, excuse me. Canopy at about 30 feet. Overall, we felt the health of the tree was good given leaf color, etc., and that the structure in general was fair. On the application itself for removal, property owner listed tree is in poor health, that the tree is near the end of its lifespan, that the tree has poor structure or an unbalanced canopy, and the tree does not have proper growth space. So those were the criteria, those were the criteria we were looking at. Ultimately, when we look at balanced canopy, the left-hand photograph here kind of shows that it's fairly well balanced. You might see a little bit extra growth to the right side of the tree or the rear of the property. But for the most part, we feel like it's fairly well balanced. And then on the right-hand side, again, talking about the green foliage, there's a limited amount of dieback in the upper left-hand corner of the tree. I don't know. Yeah, my mouse doesn't show up there, but top left of the tree on the right there is a few small twigs that are showing dieback, but otherwise the tree in general looked fairly healthy, etc. So when we look at the trunk of the tree itself, one of the things that was brought up in the information that was submitted was that there is a large seam on that trunk. The seam itself, we're not exactly sure what is causing that, but it is not uncommon. When we see Modesto ash, it is common for us to see that. Some of those times it's related to structural cracks or otherwise. In this case, we did not feel that it actually was related to a structural crack because it only extended about an inch or two into the tree itself, which just under the bark, basically. We really didn't feel that it extended into the heartwood or otherwise. So we didn't see that as a big structural issue. But I would say Modesto ash in general do have some structural issues kind of inherent to their nature because they have a lot of codominant stems or otherwise they can end up competing that when not maintained well, absolutely can lead to limb failures or others or other issues similar to kind of what we've talked about in the past with deodar cedars or otherwise. There is evidence of one large limb failure, probably in the neighborhood of about 12 inches or so that fell off. That limb is actually on the side of the tree that will be closer to the residence. So we understand some of the concern of the resident that they don't want to see additional limbs failing onto the new home or otherwise. But ultimately, when we look at that, didn't really see extensive decay, didn't really see anything that was too concerning for us structurally or otherwise. So, again, limited risk, I will say, when it comes to the actual prior failure. When we look at this one, again, let me backtrack. Part of the reason we're looking at both of these trees this evening is because the owners are looking to redevelop or rebuild the house that's on the property with a modular design. This drawing that we have on the screen now shows the Modesto ash in that left rear again. As you can see from the drawing, very close, few feet from the deck that is proposed. But the actual foundation for the building and everything else are at least 10 feet away. So we did not feel that construction of or damage to the roots from construction of the foundation or otherwise couldn't be mitigated. Going to require some additional watering, perhaps some mycorrhizae or fertilizers or otherwise to kind of regenerate some root loss if it occurs. But ultimately, we felt like it was far enough away that it wasn't going to create any significant structure or other issues for the tree that couldn't be managed. So to get to the end of it, ultimately, when we looked at the condition of the tree, we felt like, again, the overall health was good, that the structure was fair, and there was no evidence of any nuisance damage or interference that couldn't be addressed through some proactive maintenance. We also didn't find that it was necessary to construct improvements in this case, because it was located just outside of that construction area, and ultimately the impacts from any impacts to the roots or otherwise could be mitigated fairly easily. Staff's evaluation of the tree found the health and structure of the canopy was at least fair, therefore we didn't feel that criteria was met. And then lastly, the staff's evaluation did not find the tree should be removed due to good forestry practices, as no facts were provided to support this criteria. So our decision was to retain this tree.
Great, thank you for the report and presentation, Mr. Hanson. You know, I probably should have just reviewed the process before I teed you up. Thank you for that report. We'll now have up to 10 minutes for the appellant to speak. Then we'll have commission questions of any of the presenters, including staff and the appellant. Then we'll open it up to public comment. And then we'll close the comment. Staff will have 2 additional minutes to make any final comments. The appellant will have 2 minutes to make any final comments, and then the commission will deliberate and potentially make a motion to vote. So with that, I invite the appellant to address the commission, and you have 10 minutes.
My name is Oscar and I submitted the appeal for the ash. After consideration and input from Russell, we've decided to not remove the ash tree.
Easy enough.
All right. You know, that was the best 10 minutes I've ever. So no action is required from.
I think just some additional context. So we ended up, we're not going to remove the tree, and we're proposing to move the house further to plan right, which would give additional distance from that existing tree. So concerns of the deck footings and whatnot that would be within that protected tree area, hopefully would be mitigated by moving that house further to the right.
So that essentially is a retraction of your original application.
Appeal.
Can you guys just say who you are, just so we know for the record and stuff?
I'm Oscar Hernandez, and I'm here on behalf of Arrow Homes.
And Stefan Bittner with Arrow Homes.
Neither one of you are the property owner, is that correct?
We represent the property owner.
Okay.
The property owner is Arrow Properties, NorCal One. We work for Arrow Properties.
Thank you. Being a situation we haven't really dealt with before, I think this is a non-issue and we don't need to take any action. Or do we need to take action?
I think if we note it in the minutes what happened.
The appellant withdrew their appeal.
Yes.
So the judgment of the staff stands, because there is no appeal.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone want to make a motion for an entry into the minutes, just to,
I'll move that we enter into the minutes that the appellant withdrew their appeal. And so the matter does not need to come to commission. Okay.
you okay with that?
Yes, that's all.
Maybe an opportunity for public comment, just because you are taking an action.
All right. We have second, but we are going to, before we vote, we're going to open it to public comment. Does anyone, the public wish to address the issue of the ash at 1158 Fletcher Drive?
I do have one hand, Leslie Friedman.
Friedman, you're welcome to address the commission.
Okay, I would like to start by thanking Mr. Hanson for his presentation about the health of the tree. I'm just going to make a comment that is not, I'm trying to make it short because this is short. The tree is not in a movie or a cartoon. Living things are almost never, I can't even think of one that would be symmetrical. And, you know, that's the truth with humans too. Somebody's eye is something different than the other side, or long or short or whatever. It's a healthy tree. And I think it's great that the city has noticed its appearance and its health. And so I think everybody's to be congratulated, and it's a happy thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Friedman. We'll accept your congratulations. I'll echo that. We have a motion and a second.
Chair, I may.
Yes.
Staff didn't quite catch the motion
Okay.
from the commissioner, so if we can,
May I ask
Have
the
it
motioner to
restated, please?
restate?
See if I can rewind the tape back. I think what I moved was that we note in the minutes that the appellant has withdrawn their appeal and therefore the commission will not need to take any action.
That sound good to everybody?
He's withdrawn the appeal and is going to keep the tree. Thus, force the board to take no action. Could you put it up on the big screen, Allison? Please.
So it sounds like the suggestion is to, they've withdrawn the appeal because they state that they intend to retain the tree.
Exactly.
And therefore the commission will not be taking any action.
And hopefully we can put it up there so we can,
Yeah.
you can read it and
Yeah.
it populates everything you want.
Yeah.
And it's an eye test.
Yeah. So has withdrawn their appeal and states that they intend to retain the tree. Therefore, the commission will not need to take any action. Will not take any action.
And I'm sorry, who seconded?
So it's Commissioner Felios. That will take a vote. That looks like a straightforward.
Does sound good to you?
Commissioner Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Felios?
yes.
Commissioner Summer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mitchner?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes. Yes. All right, thank you. With that, we're on to item 5.2. Again, this, which is a liquid ambar at the same property. Just to reiterate again, staff will present a report. The appellant will have up to 10 minutes. The applicant will have 10 minutes. The commission will have an opportunity to ask questions of any of the presenters. We'll open it up to public comment after that. And then staff will have an additional 2 minutes. The applicant will have an additional 2 minutes, and the appellant will have an additional 2 minutes to make any comments before the commission deliberates. So with that, Mr. Hanson, we turn it back to you for a staff report.
Thank you, commissioners. Again, Russell Hanson, Urban Forest Manager, here to talk about 11. Oh.
Just bring it up.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just switched.
Okay. Just
Sorry,
wanted to
I
make
was a
sure.
little slow, sorry.
No, no worries. Here to talk about 1158 Cuesta Drive, appeal of a heritage liquid amber to be removed. The tree itself is a liquid amber, as stated, has approximately a 40-inch diameter when measured at 54 inches above grade. We estimated the height of the tree to be about 60 feet and considered about 20 to maybe a little bit more feet of canopy spread on the tree itself. Overall, we felt that it had good health and structure in this case. On the application itself, the applicant said or listed that the tree has poor structure and or unbalanced canopy, that the tree does not appear to have proper growth space, tree removal is necessary to construct improvements, and that the tree is growing in close proximity to structures and causing damage or will do so in the near future. So when we look at the first one again, poor structure, unbalanced canopy, we have both a deciduous we have a photo of the tree both in its deciduous as well as in its full leaf condition. As you can see on the one on the left, again, for the most part, fairly well balanced. Even the one on the right with the foliage taken from the other side, fairly well balanced. Perhaps a little bit more canopy to the right side in the second photograph there that is over the home, but could easily be addressed through pruning or otherwise. No evidence of dieback or anything else that we could find in the tree. So again, our overall belief was that it was in good to fair health and structure. When it comes to growth space, absolutely, we noted a couple different things than when we were out on site. The photograph on the left there, you can see the sidewalk has previously been lifted. That arrow to the kind of bottom right, I referenced prior grinding. You can see there that somebody has come in, I'm not sure if it was the city or the property owner, but come in and where there may have been a differential to the sidewalk that presented a trip hazard, they've ground that back down so that it's a little bit smoother, doesn't present as much risk or hazard to the public. However, the sidewalk itself still is being lifted slightly. If you look at it when you're on site, typically for ADA compliance, you have to maintain 2% slope or less on any stretch of sidewalk. In this case, our estimation was that this actually exceeded the 2% slope because the root flare and the root system of the liquid amber had begun to lift it. Again, something potentially that's manageable, would require removal of the sidewalk, et cetera. But ultimately, we're just noting that because the real issue is going to be discussed later in terms of construction of the new home. The second photograph to the right there, our Mountain View utility team was actually out on site today shooting the sewer lateral lines because there was an obstruction. And so what that photograph is actually shows that tree roots have actually invaded their sewer line, that it took advantage of some kind of a breach or otherwise. And they were noted both on the street side as well as likely on the property side of the clean out, which if you look at the photograph on the left where that yellow and red arrow is, that's the sewer clean out that I'm talking about. Those clean outs are typically placed right there on the backside of sidewalk. The city maintains everything from that clean out to the main line. Property owner maintains everything from the clean out back to the residents. In this case, the photograph that you're seeing on the right is actually to the main line, from the clean out to the main line. So there is some root intrusion as well that could be managed potentially, but ultimately what we typically recommend is repair of that line. Can be done sometimes through pipe bursting, where they literally go into the existing line, blow the old one out and simply replace it. No real significant excavation required or otherwise. In other cases, it's not as simple. We didn't get into too much detail on this, so I can't tell you if pipe bursting would work in this situation. But ultimately, if excavation was required, it would do significant damage to the surface roots and the root system of this tree, because I was told by the utility team that that sewer line was at least 6 feet deep. So to excavate down that far, they're going to basically take the whole profile of that root system if they were to go in and make the repair. So that was another one of the considerations that we've had on this one. Lastly, I just wanted to kind of talk about the type of construction. I'll let the developer get into a little bit more, but ultimately this is a modular construction where they're building the majority of this off-site in a factory or otherwise, shipping it to the site, constructing it as a pre-built or otherwise. These modular homes are actually guided more by state and federal regulations, and ultimately very difficult, I will say, to try and request alterations or otherwise. to the modular designs. And so the photograph at the right is kind of a representative that the developer and owner had presented to us, that kind of shows what the final design will look like of the home, with the driveway shifting to the right side as well. That's one of the other key factors here, was where the driveway is to the left, it would be shifting over to the right. So that's what we get into on this slide. The photograph on the left, you can see the tree location with the yellow and red. Ultimately, what they submitted to us with the original application was at least one alternative other design that they considered, where they would shift the whole property, the home, not the property, excuse me, the home itself closer to that right property line, right to the edge of kind of where they're legally able to do so based off of code. The problem would be then still that driveway still is going to come in contact with that tree unless it is fully shifted over towards the property line, which would require a variance. Typically, you've got to be 5 feet from the edge of property line with driveway or otherwise. And so shifting that driveway over to the edge would require additional variances or otherwise. So ultimately, they've decided on that design to the right. I'll let them speak as to how much more it may have been shifted back or otherwise. But based off of what we had originally, that tree was basically centered up in the driveway itself. And so we felt like, given the modular design and limited ability to modify, as well as the driveway location or otherwise, exploring that shifting didn't necessarily work while retaining the tree. If the tree is eliminated, I think they still have flexibility to shift it to the right, keep their straight driveway, and they don't require any variances or anything else. But again, I will let them speak a little bit more on that. And so ultimately, staff's finding was that removal of the heritage tree was necessary in order to construct improvements, because the tree fell within the driveway for the proposed improvements, and the modular design of the home meets local state guidelines, which cannot be modified.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. We now have 10 minutes for the appellant to present. Is the appellant here?
Oh,
Me?
yep.
Good.
Hi, I'm Alton. I'm a Mountain View resident. I just wanted to say that this tree, if you've seen it, is magnificent, and it's an asset to Cuesta Drive. And the reason for the heritage tree ordinance is to respect and revere the tree and keep it. And no plans are set in stone yet. It can be readjusted, anything can be readjusted. It's done all the time. I have page after page of trees being kept and construction being adjusted around the trees. This tree, if you've seen it, the root system goes out to the lateral to the right and left, and it's beautiful. It's just a magnificent tree. I used to go visit that house in 1985, and the tree was almost the same size. So I think that if you ask these gentlemen to adjust the slab for the driveway, because for a prefab and a cement slab driveway would be just really sad to remove this beautiful tree just for a cement slab and a prefab. And I'm not putting down prefab homes, but there's always a way to adjust construction to appreciate heritage trees, which are being lost at a magnanimous rate. And that Cuesta Drive is really beautiful, but I always see like 2 to 3 trees a year being removed from it that have been around for 40 to 50 years. And they need to stay. It's a beautiful, from Grant Road on Cuesta all the way to Springer is a beautiful, beautiful drive, but the trees are being lost. And I don't know what else to say, except if you guys have walked over there and seen this tree, especially at night, it's just gracious. So maybe you can ask the gentleman to readjust anything can be recalibrated if you're building it. It really can. So to have this tree, when you're driving down Cuesta towards Springer, it's just like a beautiful presentation, and all it needs is artistic pruning. That's all it really needs. So please find it in your heart to see what's really going on, and thank you for appreciating heritage trees.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
comments.
Thank you.
You'll have an additional 2 minutes.
I'm sorry.
I said, thank you for your comments. You will have an additional 2 minutes later.
Oh, thank you
So
very much.
you can
Thanks, guys.
hear what other folks have to say.
Thank you.
Now we will have 10 minutes for the applicant to address the commission.
is.
Good to go. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Oscar. I'm here on behalf of Barrow Homes, the owner and developer of the property. And I just wanted to go over how our analysis and how we decided to remove the tree. So when we looked at the site, we took an inventory of all the trees on the property. Initially, we did propose removing both the liquid amber and the ash tree in the back. After further evaluation, we decided to remove the liquid amber tree on the front. The reason being that based on our analysis, the existing driveway has already been damaged and has a huge chunk taken out of it on two trees that are next to the property line. One of them being a protected coast live oak, and then the other one being a camphor tree, both fairly young in age. So placing the driveway on the left of the property would mean that it would be placed between the three existing trees, which have already damaged the existing driveway, but the new driveway would continue to be damaged after the development. So the issue would not be resolved, and putting in a new driveway would actually potentially impact the growth of all three trees. Again, we looked at putting the driveway on the right of the property, and this would mean that the driveway would not, we would need a variance for the driveway, and it would be the whole driveway would be in the tree protection zone, and a portion of it would likely be in the structural root zone of the tree in the front yard. And then lastly, we did notice some sidewalk damage, which would continue to happen and would require ongoing maintenance for the life of the property and the tree. And that is why what we currently propose is removal of the front yard, the front liquid amber tree, and installing or placing in a new Saratoga laurel in the backyard. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
then-
Oscar.
Want to speak to?
Sure. There you go, leave that there. Okay. Yeah, and so this proposed plan that's up on the screen, this is slightly different than the site plan that you saw, Russell. So this shows the building actually shifted to plan right. That shows, you know, now there's new clearance or additional clearance for the Modesto ash in the rear yard. I think lastly, just regarding Arrow Homes and who we are, a little bit about us. So we are a modular home builder located in Mountain View. All of our plans, as Russell stated, are approved at the state level. And then we bring them in and they're approved at the jurisdictional level. And so, you know, we're here to build better, cleaner homes. That's the whole intent. The home was designed to basically be carbon neutral in I think 15 to 17 years of operation. So having a, you know, highly developed enclosure system, as well as you know, the solar, significant solar that we put on each of the buildings. Offsets, you know, we've done significant studies to show that that offsets not only all the products that are in the building itself, but also the construction that's required as a part of the building. So our goal is to, you know, replace existing aging housing. This house was, you know, nearing its end of life. 1955, I think it was built, so it's a 70-year-old house with updated, more efficient, better buildings. And so that's our intent, and to do it better and faster than anybody else. You know, I think something to note here, and kind of what Oscar was showing, is that unfortunately that tree in the front yard really prohibits any kind of development there, whether we were modular or not. You know, it shows that existing sewer clean out is in that front yard in that critical root zone. Anybody that was going to come in would typically replace their sewer line up to that existing sewer clean out, which would cause pretty significant disturbance to that root zone. Same as I believe the water meter is in similar proximity, so reconnecting all of that those utilities would cause impact to that, and that would just happen to any opportunity to develop at that site. So yeah, I think that's.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We'll now entertain questions from commissioners to any of the speakers. Mr. Mitchell, would you
Sure.
like to start?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So I had asked in the pre-meeting questions whether the oak tree was a heritage tree, and it is. I also believe, and I just wanted to ask, it looked to me like the camphor tree, although not, seems a little stunted in its height, but to me, that looks like a heritage tree as well. Is that?
I don't remember specifically. Do you remember the diameter of the camphor tree?
We've got that.
Yeah, the slides were, that was too blurred. I couldn't read it in the.
20 inches
Diameter or circumference?
diameter, circumference.
Okay, so that would be considered, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty. And if the driveway were reconstructed in the current location, I presume, well, I'll ask you, would it be disruptive or damaging to the roots of those two heritage trees?
I would say it's highly likely, yes, that given the age of the concrete and the construction and everything else, the builders are likely to come in and have to completely reconstruct all the base materials and everything else to make sure any new driveway that is constructed is able to support what it needs to support without cracking, spalding, or otherwise. And so that typically is going to require at least 12 inches of excavation. How many roots are under there? I can't tell you for certain, other than we do know there are roots, because some of that damage we felt like was caused by tree roots.
So the whole concept of a variance is new to me, as I don't think it was in the report or anything like that. Talk to me about that. And it would seem, I mean, to me, the roots look pretty pervasive. I mean, even if you moved it, well, first of all, what's the difficulty and likelihood of getting a variance? And if there were a variance, would that save the roots of this tree?
Sure. So again, I'm not an expert on variances, so I can't speak too much to that. We did simply reach out to our planning group to try and better understand. And ultimately, variances occur on a semi-regular basis, I guess is the best way to put it. They're not impossible to come by, but they are somewhat challenging sometimes, depending on kind of the layout and what that variance is for. With the driveway, I think they could probably be successful at getting that variance from our planning building group. But ultimately, yes, even in doing that variance, by constructing that whole new driveway, again, they're taking a minimum of a 12-inch profile to put their base materials, their concrete, et cetera. And that is likely to impact those roots significantly, because even with the variance, it was still within, I'll say, 5 to 7 feet or so of the driveway that was modified.
Okay, that's it for my question.
Can I piggyback that question?
Sure.
So what, if the driveway were to be replaced in its current location, I mean, there's already sub-base gravel of some kind. We just haven't done any investigation to figure out how deep it is. Is that a fair statement, do you think?
There would absolutely be base material or otherwise. I can't speak to the construction specifications at the time if they were the same. So I can't say as to how much base is there. I would also say that while base material and everything else was installed there, those tree roots have intruded that. And so ultimately it is not necessarily a usable base. They're still going to have to excavate, compact, and do everything to make sure that it is a solid foundation for that new driveway.
But in comparison to the right side of the property where there is no driveway, there's already some concrete, which is probably more like 3 inches.
6
And
inches or
so
more.
like 3/3 is probably what it is back from 1960. And so there's already something in that zone that the roots would not be able to penetrate all the way.
That is correct.
That was a question, but yeah, you said yes.
So,
Thanks.
yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, The issue for us when looking at that is that it's not just the liquid amber any longer, it's also that oak tree and that camphor that are impacted by keeping it in that existing location. So now you're impacting not just the liquid amber on the right side, but now you're impacting the other two trees as well. And again, can't say for certain. I'm likely the driveway that was cut out was because of damage from the camphor trees. Camphors are very prolific surface rooters. And so ultimately, we feel like that cutout was likely because they were getting lifting or heaving from the roots that were underneath that. And so, you know, again, the amount of reconstruction or otherwise and the amount of impact, while not as, I'll say, focused on just one tree, if we were to move it to the right, it is going to have, I'll say, a bigger impact on the camphor, the oak, than it would the liquid amber. Liquid ambers are fairly hardy when it comes to root pruning, that they tolerate it a little bit more. Whereas the oak trees and the camphor trees in particular are super hypersensitive to root pruning. I have root pruned camphors before, just taking one 4 to 6 inch root, 3/4 of the canopy died off on the tree. It absolutely amazed me that it happened, but ultimately those are some of the things that we have to consider as well as the sensitivity to the root pruning, and both the oak and the camphor are going to be more sensitive than the liquid amber.
Is it fair to say that the oak and camphor have grown up with the driveway and that they're already somewhat constrained by that? Having a
That-
driveway there?
That is a fair statement, yes.
Okay.
Questions?
Yes. So looking at I didn't focus on the oak and the camphor, but the camphor looked pretty stunted and very close to the oak. So I would have thought that good forestry, if we were just talking about trees on the property, good forestry practices would say take one of those trees out. Now, the oak itself is really leaning because I'm leaning towards the tree, towards the street. Obviously, it doesn't have the sun it needs. The way your answers to Commissioner Summer were going, it was almost like choosing between the oak and the camphor and the liquid amber. It's almost like take the driveway away to protect the oak and the camphor. And if you take the driveway away and move it to the left, then the liquid amber has to go. It was almost like making a choice between them. Did I just misunderstand where this conversation was going?
No, ultimately, that is absolutely some of the consideration that we gave this, and that we had to look at all of those trees and the impacts to all of them. And so our effort is just to simply minimize it to all trees if possible.
Okay, that was helpful. Now, I actually went twice to the site because the first time I only looked at the tree. And then I went again to look at the roots and what the street looked like in terms of the other houses nearby. And at some stage in the life of Cuesta Drive, the liquid amber must have been the street tree because there are so many of them. And I'm going into comments, and I won't go into comments, but from what the owners were saying, it's almost like the liquid amber has to go because there's no way to do anything with this property unless the tree goes. Would you like support a statement like that? This tree has to go because nothing can possibly happen on this property unless the tree goes.
I wouldn't support that statement in that, yes, other things that could be done. But ultimately, again, given that these modular homes are approved at the state level, at the local level, we have a very difficult time saying, no, you can't build a modular, you have to build this type of construction. That's just not, the city typically can't get into methods and means and that sort of a thing. And so given the modular design that has been chosen, Yes, that is truly kind of what we're looking at, is that given the current modular, I don't think that tree can be preserved.
Okay. Another question. They were saying that they were proposing to put in a Lower
Saratoga.
Saratoga, right? Now the liquid amber is a street tree. Putting a shrub or a bush in the back doesn't cut it as far as replacing a street tree. So what would the city propose in that case?
Ultimately, we would propose replacing the tree out front once the driveway is relocated. If we can find the space between that sewer line, the water meter, et cetera, we would encourage planting out front. But again, the plans have changed, so I can't speak to whether we're gonna be able to accommodate that or not. I'm gonna have to look at that and decide if that's, if we're able to do that. But again, I know there are some other existing conflicts that may restrict that.
So the situation could be that Cuesta Drive basically uses the street tree.
It would lose a street tree on that side of the driveway. At least the oak tree to the left side of the driveway is going to provide significant canopy like a street tree would. And they will be expanding the landscape area around that. So should either of those trees end up presenting challenges or otherwise, we could absolutely put another street tree back in that location.
All right, let me just, okay, I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Felix.
I think you just answered, if I didn't hear, I apologize. It is a city street tree
Correct.
as opposed to just a private tree.
I believe so, yes.
That's the only question I have, because everything else has been asked.
I have another question, but I want to make sure Melissa has their opportunity, so if you want to go first.
Immediately relate to this. I'll just add a few. Thank you, Mr. Hampton. You answered many questions. I'll try and ask someone else. Perhaps the record, Marcia. Just a theoretical question. Does the judgment or recommendation of a advisory body such as the PRC have any bearing on a variance request? In other words, if we said we would recommend the city entertain a variance request, would that be heard?
I don't believe that would influence the final decision.
You don't. Much for advisory. Okay. I'm sorry.
I do think it would create a basis for a variance.
Mr. Hanson, you talked about the sidewalks. Do you think the sidewalk condition here is notably different than anything else along Cuesta?
It would be similar to a lot of other instances along Cuesta.
And then the sewer drain, as one who has had to drill out my sewers a number of times, could not the sewer clogging be dealt with through a plumber coming in with the, whatever they call those things, that root out?
Absolutely, roots can be dealt with by using a rooter or otherwise, or a router or otherwise. The issue is those are never permanent. Because the router goes through the pipe and only deals with the interior of the pipe. Wherever that breach is, that the roots are coming in, they will just continue to regrow. So depending on the tree, how aggressive, et cetera, typically 2 to maybe 3 years, sometimes more.
And other people have noted it, but do you know, was the liquid ambar a designated street tree for Cuesta? It sure looks that way.
That I do not know, but yes, absolutely. There are a number of liquid ambers along there, so it would not surprise me.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan.
So I have a question, I don't know if it's for staff, you can all say. So within the city of Mountain View, how many street trees are lifting the sidewalk and are located next to the sewer cleanout?
So I'll deal with them separately and say when it comes to the sidewalk, that number is likely, again, I don't have exact data on this one because our latest inventory was back in 2015. So a lot of conditions have changed, but it would be a fair estimate to say at least 30 to 40%, maybe as much as 50% or more are experiencing sidewalk issues. That is a very common problem.
So how
When-
many street trees do we have in the city?
Our inventory includes probably 23 to 24,000 that are considered street trees. So you're talking over 10,000, absolutely, that would have the potential to be impacting the sidewalk at this point. Sewers, less likely of a problem. Typically, I'm gonna say that's closer to maybe 10% or so. And again, some of those are minor issues that they're able to deal with routing or otherwise to kind of keep them open. In other cases, they repair them outright, just pipe burst or otherwise, they replace that with an ABS pipe, because that truthfully is a lot of the challenge with the sewer line. The old type of construction where they use vulcanized clay pipe and use bell housing or otherwise, those joints end up breaking down over time, and so they start to leak, and that's where the tree root takes advantage of. And so the only way to fix that is replacing the whole line with like a solid ABS or at least a glued ABS that ultimately seals that a lot better and more permanent.
So the ballpark 10% would be like
Couple
2,000
thousand,
trees.
sure.
Yeah.
And of those, how many of the 10 and 2 overlap, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, we're just back of the enveloping here.
Yeah,
And then, are you also aware, I think there's some kind of pipelining technique that's like latex goop you can pour down?
absolutely. Similar to the pipe bursting or otherwise, there are
Yeah.
technologies that are out there that can be done to kind of restore that.
Other non-excavation. type
Correct.
approaches.
Again, not a plumber, so I can't tell you which ones are feasible in which cases. With pipe bursting or otherwise, that is one of the challenges, is that you still have to create an open excavation pit so that you can get down to that pipe. And if we're talking 6 feet deep, that excavation has to be decent size so that people can get in there, put their supports up. Cal OSHA requires anything over more than about 3 feet or so, you gotta put additional support into there. So you're putting all that, then you're getting a lot of excavation kind of right there in that area next to the tree.
So is this, when that's in the city maintained segment, is that paid for by the city for those 2,000 trees?
From the clean out to the main line, if there is a clean out, because not every property has a clean out, but from a clean out to a main, yes, that is covered by the city.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions.
I do eventually have two questions.
Please, have one more, so why don't you go first?
Okay, thank you. So just a clarification about the camphors. I live downtown, as you know, I'm sure, we used to have lots of camphors. A lot of them have died, quite a few of them are still there, and they have been certainly lifting pavements. In the last couple of months, the city took a pavement near my house, which truly was truly a liability for anyone walking there, and straightened it. And there's a very big camphor there, and it's still there. And on the corner of Villa and View, I think, the city was excavating on the street and again cut through the roots of the camphor. I was really surprised at the extensive work, and they seem to be fine. So they're surviving quite well.
I can't speak to those specifically because we were not called out to look at them or otherwise. I would simply say based off of your time period, it's likely that the trees just aren't showing any kind of decline or dieback at this point.
Okay.
That typically it's at least a year, but frequently it's 2 to 3 to 5 years before you see the complete collapse or decline.
This, however, these were city crews, because I saw the digging and stuff. I'm gonna call the city, but then I saw it is a city, so presumably they have asked community services what they were doing.
I will say we have been involved with California Ave, with the redo of California that's currently occurring. And I know that has bled over onto some of the other streets that our coordinator, Matt. I was gonna say, Matt, our coordinator, has been working with them, so I don't know specifics in terms of Villa and View or any of these other ones that you're talking about, but again, they didn't rise to the level that I was consulted or asked about them, so I can't speak to them specifically other than, given the timing, you probably just aren't seeing it yet.
So this has nothing to do with CalUp, because it's nowhere near. All right, that's possibly a matter of new concern. And then the variance is not clear to me. It sound, I mean, asking variances is what people do all the time, and usually seems to me, when I've seen that people ask for variances, they get it. If they ask for a variance and they got the variance, would that benefit the tree? Would the tree be at less risk?
It absolutely would be at less risk because it could potentially be moved away from the driveway instead of in it currently. So absolutely, there would be an improvement, but again, without knowing the distance from it, et cetera, all I can say is that liquid ambers are fairly hardy.
Thank you.
And I have one question. Mr. Lucas, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
My question is this. Would you agree with my interpretation, specifically of item number 2 on the criteria, which states allowing reasonable and conforming use? That conforming probably has a fairly narrow legal definition, but reasonable probably doesn't have a legal definition, is more a subjective.
Well,
Is there a?
your interpretation is your interpretation. I think that's reasonable.
Is there a reasonable interpretation?
Right, none of these words are defined in this code, so I think, you know, your understanding of the general meaning of these words controls.
Is, you wouldn't find those a highly objectionable interpretation? No. All right, thank you. Thank you all for answering questions. Well, now.
I have one more question.
Oh, okay.
Do you know when the owner started this process?
This process. You're asking when we started the tree application or?
No, the redevelopment process, when
It was,
Late April.
yeah, probably April timeframe or so.
this year?
Yeah.
So maybe I can jump in with one more question.
One more question.
So I, because that's what I usually do, I looked at Realtor listings. And it seemed like the sale closed in May. And the application was put in April, which I found kind of surprising.
That's correct.
Was that a question?
It was. I found it surprising that an application to take out the tree was put in before the sale closed. And is that just the way it was?
Are you just asking for clarification?
Yeah.
Yeah, so typical process is we get into agreement with a homeowner to sell their house. And we've got a signed purchase and sale agreement, an agreement with them that states that we can submit permits on their behalf until we close on the property. And so because we're modular, we move quite quickly. And so that's where we're able to actually submit for permits before we even own the property with the previous owner's permission.
Because you had the certainty that you were basically buying the property, and as it was going through escrow, you might as well start the process.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we're gonna.
One other quick one.
Last question.
Just on a potential variance for this. And maybe this is illegal, I don't know. The neighbor on the other side, who the driveway would be going closer to, would they have a say in the variance?
I don't know if they found out about it. I mean, I don't know if the homeowner needs to give notice to neighbors of a variance of this nature.
We don't quite know the absolute process.
I can tell you.
I'm gonna turn it over to public comment. So members of the public that wish to address this issue, 5.2, the liquid ambar, are welcome to comment for up to 3 minutes. Are there any members of the public? I see Leslie Friedman has a hand raised. Can we hear from Ms. Friedman?
Hi, thank you again. It seems to me that we do need to go take a look at before the building was going to be built. It seems to me that I think the builders are currently the owners. I'm not, I think that's what the story is here. When they saw the property, they had to have also seen the trees. And it seems to me that it is very possible that the very handsome house that they are hoping to build there might not really be the best fit for that property. Also would not be the best fit for the property since there are, I think now, at least 3, maybe 4 heritage trees on the property. And Mountain View, as the builders know, has this ordinance. All too often, people see a property and decide they like the property, they like the location, and they just decide that after a while they'll be able to kill the trees and get them out of the way. I think that the fact that the design of the building is approved by the state, that doesn't mean that that's great, but it's not going to do anything about the concrete that has been there for a long, long time. And as everybody knows, the concrete's going to crack, and it does crack. And so you have to either do away with the concrete, which is possible, or just decide that you want to have that property and we're going to make it work by fixing the cracked concrete. I think that anyone who has ever seen a sweet gum, an amber, liquid amber tree, say about in September, October, would it be like tossing rubies up in the air and deciding that the concrete was worth more than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Friedman. Do we have any other members of the public?
We do. We have Rashmi.
Okay, Rashmi, you're welcome to unmute and address the commission.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I would like to express my support for the appeal to not let the liquid amber be cut down. Let's remember that the tree was there first. It's a beautiful, healthy tree that is currently providing innumerable benefits to the neighborhood, including canopy cover, cleaner air, climate resiliency, and habitat for local fauna. By granting the property owner permission to remove this tree, you're removing a valuable asset from which everyone in the surrounding community benefits. With a little creativity, there's surely a way to build a driveway that is not in conflict with the roots of the tree. Some of that came up in the conversation. While a prefabricated home may provide cost savings to the homeowner, it is the surrounding community that pays the price of the loss of this heritage tree. Yes, street trees may present some conflicts with the surrounding built environment, including lifted sidewalks and blocked sewage pipes. This is certainly true for the area surrounding my own property. However, with Mountain View's Heritage Tree Ordinance, we have come together as a community to say that we are willing to put up with some of these conveniences to protect our urban forest. What's the purpose of a Heritage Tree Ordinance if it cannot protect a majestic, healthy tree for a single driveway? Although new trees are supposed to be planted with the removal of a heritage tree, there's no guarantee that these trees will survive and thrive. Moreover, it will take decades before they grow to a size that provides the same community and ecosystem benefits as the trees that they were meant to replace. Unfortunately, I have firsthand experience with this. The city removed a street tree on our property, citing that it was reaching the end of its useful life as a reason for removal. Although as a resident, I had not observed any evidence that the tree was in poor health. A new tree was planted in its place, and over the past 5 years, it has really been struggling. My husband and I, being the tree lovers we are, have been trying everything to help it thrive, and yet its trunk circumference remains at the 5 inches it was when it first was planted, and it has a total of 27 leaves on all its fragile limbs. I see this happening all over the city when the city removes heritage trees and plants saplings as replacements. I hope you will consider the holistic impact that upholding permission to remove this heritage tree will have, not just on the surrounding community and ecosystem, but also on the integrity of Mountain View's heritage tree ordinance. Let's keep the spirit of the ordinance alive and let this tree live for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Do we have any other comments, public comments? Okay, with that, each will have 2 additional minutes. The staff will have 2 minutes. The applicant will have 2 minutes and the appellant will have 2 minutes. And if you would save any comments or remarks until your 2-minute time, I'd appreciate it. So staff.
Staff would waive their 2 minutes, no additional back.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hanson. Would the applicant wish to address anything that you've heard in this discussion so far?
So a few things. I would like to clarify that it's not, the tree is on private property. We can show survey if of interest, but it is a private property tree, not a street tree. However, we would consider, you know, that tree replacement and where that would be. I think, you know, there was a few questions on how we evaluate sites and what we take into consideration. We do evaluate all the sites that we purchase. We have, you know, an arborist report that we've provided, provide guidance on how we can develop these sites, these end of use homes with the least impact to the existing trees. That's something, you know, we take into consideration and, you know, think it's valuable to replace these end of use less efficient homes with a more energy efficient, sustainable home. I would like to clarify, you know, the sewer lateral connection is certainly a concern for anybody that's either going to live in that house existing, as we discussed, or if you were to redevelop and want to reconnect to that existing sewer. I do, in my professional opinion, believe it would be challenging to do pipe bursting. Most of the time, pipe bursting is good if you don't have any offset joints. And that's, you know, if they do pipe bursting with offset joints, that reduces the usable diameter of the sewer lateral. And so most of the times it's not an effective way to reuse a sewer lateral, and they wouldn't, I don't think the city would accept that. And lastly, it's unfortunate that, and if anybody was on the site, they could probably see that liquid amber tree, most of the tree roots are on the surface, which would just make any kind of construction within that root area pretty critical. You can see that they extend pretty far, and they're certainly not deep. They're mostly surface level roots.
Thank you for your comments. And now the appellant has.
Is that me?
You
Okay.
are the appellant, I
Thank you.
believe, so you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, my dad's been here 76 years and we have a 50 or 60-year-old tree on the front yard. And we work around the sewer inlet. We worked around that. We put in a new driveway. And it's just like growing out of your clothes. Trees grow out of the sidewalk. So you get readjusted your clothes, you readjust the sidewalk. In fact, about 12 years ago, Bruce Hurlbert, the arborist of this city, for 92 trees up and down El Camino, they did modifications to the sidewalk because the trees were growing out of the sidewalk, and on 92 trees, he adjusted that. And a heritage tree is like what that woman said, Rashmi. It's something to be revered and appreciated. It took 50, 60, 70, maybe 100 years to grow. And it should be revered and appreciated and built around. Anybody can build around something. I have page after page here of trees that were built around in areas like Montessorino, Saratoga. In fact, they're good friends of mine, the arborists in Saratoga and Montessorino. They build around the trees that have been there. They don't take them out to adjust to their own needs. And these guys are smart enough to know that you can adjust the driveway. If the pipes get outgrown by the roots, that can all be worked with. We do that with our bodies. Why not with these wonderful heritage trees? And, you know, if you appreciate something that's been around a long time, there's 800-year-old trees in England and in Ireland. We can do the same thing here. I don't know what else to say. You guys understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
I'd like to thank everybody, the staff, the applicant, the appellant, and the public for your comments. It's now in our hands. It's up to the commission. So we will deliberate. I guess we will discuss first. So I will hand the floor to anyone that wants to kick it off. Commissioner Mitchell.
I'll jump in and kick it off and I'll say that I'm gonna make some comments, but I wanna also hear what others have to say. So this is a frustrating one for me. You know, in this case, we have, you know, a healthy, mature tree. But we also have a removal criteria that allows for removal when there's, quote, necessity of the removal of the heritage tree in order to construct improvements and or allow reasonable and conforming use of the property when compared to other similarly situated properties. As has been noted, this particular development is using a modular off-site design and state approval process whereby the site-specific home design, this is quoting, adjustments are not possible. You know, so as I understand it, the full structure can only be shifted, you know, if the owner pursues this type of development, it has to be moved in its entirety. It's sort of like fitting a jigsaw puzzle piece or something like that, as I understand it. I do agree that moving the driveway to the right would allow for more optimal conditions for the oak and the camphor trees, trees 6 and 5 respectively. I think those roots are currently fighting with the existing driveway concrete. And you know, in some areas it's sort of rocky, it's not even concrete anymore. So anyway, I think those trees would have more space to grow, although as Commissioner Bryant noted, I'm not sure that both of them together makes sense, but anyway, that's a separate conversation. But anyway, both of those trees are heritage trees as well, and I think rebuilding the driveway in its current location would harm those roots and those trees. If there was a development anywhere and the old driveway was taken out, it would be important to protect those trees' root systems during the demolition. I also sort of follow the logic that virtually any new driveway location, especially when it's somewhat aligned with the garage, would probably cause significant damage to the root system of the liquid amber, which has, you know, major well-developed roots spread at ground level in all directions. I mean, it's pretty pervasive. It also seems that, you know, I looked at it, any attempt at sort of a winding driveway that would try to sort of circumnavigate the roots from the oak, the camphor, and the liquid amber would probably be not a productive exercise, probably. You know, there's just too pervasive a root system in that front yard. So anyway, so my initial lean is to siding with denying the appeal and upholding the staff recommendation to remove the tree. But I'll say, you know, this one hurts because I think this is a healthy, mature tree that unfortunately in this case is sort of up against a conforming use development in a city code that allows for its removal. I do remain open on this one. I'm going first. So I want to hear what other commissioners have to say to see if there are any insights or creative ideas. Again, I don't know about the process for obtaining variances or the likelihood of those being approved, or even if moving it a little bit would even make a significant difference in saving the tree, or whether there's even an option to do some kind of a conditional decision tonight. So anyway, those are my initial comments.
Anybody wish to go next?
Sure, I can go. So, yes, I thought this would be a difficult conversation for all of us. So I read and reread the ordinance, trying to understand it. And to me, what the ordinance says, like the need for improvements and conforming uses looking at the lot and saying, this is the kind of tree, this is the kind of house that we'll put in here. It doesn't matter what's on the lot already. That does not strike me as a necessary improvement or conforming use. This to me is what we are always, the opposite of what we say. You look at the lot, you see what's there, you build in the lot what fits in the lot. This is saying, this is a big lot, this is the house I want, I'll put it in here. And the PRC and council over the years have dealt with people saying, this is what I want, so you have to take out the tree. And frequently enough, the answer has been, we have an ordinance and we protect the trees. And so to me, if I could convince the rest of the commission, I would say that that condition 2 is not met here. This is not a conforming use, because I walked around to see, did people manage to have large houses on Cuesta Drive with the liquid? They seem to be doing fine. There was landscaping in front. I mean, it was grass and some flowers, but it was landscaping and not a dead front yard. Then we are talking as if take away the liquid amber and then we will protect the oak and the camphor. So to me, it looks like those two cannot survive together eventually, and maybe that's why the camphor looks so stunted. And I will say, you all know I love oaks. I would do anything for an oak, but that oak, compared to the liquid amber, and the liquid amber is not a tree I like, the effect of those two trees on the neighborhood are very different. The oak is truly a poor specimen. And not happy where it is, and I don't think it's going to grow into a beautiful tree in my lifetime. And the liquid amber has a real presence on the street. And that part of Cuesta Drive has very little canopy. Okay, there's parts of Cuesta Drive that have great canopy, and there's parts of Cuesta Drive where possibly the heritage trees have been taken out or they died or whatever. If a tree is taken out, the effect on the neighborhood, the effect on the possibility of riding one's bike or walking on Cuesta Drive goes away because you're completely in the sunlight. So if I have to weigh the camphor and the oak tree versus the liquid amber, I'd say the liquid amber is more important. If I'm pushed to having to say that. And then there's the possibility of the variance, which we hadn't heard about. And if that is even a possibility, then I think that's the first step. I don't think you take out a healthy, beautiful tree when there's still a way, there's still a chance to protect it. I think putting a shrub in the back is not going to do anything in the neighborhood. Waiting for the oak tree to grow will take a very long time. And meanwhile, there's a real loss to the community. So I cannot support staff's decision. I'm almost sure, maybe my mind can still be changed, but I think the loss to the community from the loss of that tree would be really significant, and nothing that is being proposed to us today would in any way make up to the community for that. Having a really big house there is, I mean, great for the developer, but the community won't benefit from that. Those are my comments at this point.
Mr. Sol.
Thank you. Apologies, I'm not sure I have a very coherent set of comments, but I'm just gonna go down my list here. So I have the joy of having a humongous liquid amber in my front street frontage. And so I know exactly what this tree is like. It clogs your pipes, it has big giant roots that grow into your garden and drops a bunch of spiky balls but I still love it. It creates so much shade. And so thinking about Cuesta Drive, you can tell over the years, people have removed their large street trees for these reasons. And there's very little canopy going this, at least this section of Cuesta that ends at Springer. And so Cuesta needs tree canopy. It's a wide street. It needs leaf and some shade. So one thing I noticed by having this liquid amber, I would estimate that this property at one time, probably when the tree was growing, had lawn. And so the tree put up a lot of roots right on the surface because that was where all the water does. That's what liquid ambers are going to do. That's what mine was like when I took my lawn out. There's a whole mat of fruit right under the grass. And so jumping to the next point, we've talked about this whole concept of a variance. And I can't speak to the exact variance procedure in Mountain View, but just in general, it's a sort of a technical, almost legal process that would ordinarily be done by the Planning Commission. I don't know, maybe Mountain View has delegated some of that down to the Community Development Director in certain conditions, but in order to do some of the alternatives that the driveway alternatives, particularly the one where it gets kind of shifted right over to the right side of the property where there's no driveway setback, that would probably need to be processed as a variance. However, that drawing that they did provides, the driveway would still occur within both the tree drip lane and the structural root zone. So I'm not sure, there you could be, further variance by shifting the whole building further. And I in my mind, the variance should not be a matter for our consideration. I think that if we were to require that the tree be retained, that could create a basis for them to go back and obtain a potential variance. But as far as whether a variance is required to save the tree, that's not, I don't think we should be looking at it that way, and particularly when we're mostly uninformed about the whole thing. So yeah. Okay, jumping to the next point, the driveway. It is rare to find a 60-year-old driveway in Mountain View that does not have cracks. I can think of a whole bunch of other situations that we've seen. In this early 60s, they didn't build them with rebar. They used welded wire mesh. It just disintegrates. Concrete is not waterproof. The rebar rusts and it cracks a driveway. It could have no trees and it would still be cracked. So while I do agree with staff's assessment that some of that cracking is likely could be attributed to tree roots, I don't think that it's only because of the tree roots, and we shouldn't look at that as being an inferior location for a driveway because of the oak and the camphor. Okay, so I'm just gonna notice, as others did, that there are neighbors down the street that appear to have done major remodels / improvements, could have been rebuilds. I didn't do a super ton of research, but they retained their liquid amber, which it looks like they were all roughly planted in the middle of the lot. And they were able to do that level of improvement while retaining their tree. So, there's a lot of homes along this block of Cuesta that are in similar condition to this house. But then there's a couple that have been improved and they retained a major street tree. So I guess where I'm at right now, just to get it out. I appreciate all the studies that Arrow Homes provided, and I know from experience, because they built a house on my street, that they are a high quality builder, provide a great product. The buildings go up incredibly fast. They're very sensitive to the neighbors. They're really just about all you would want from a builder. And I never want to stand in the way of housing. However, I'm not convinced that the only option is to remove this liquid amber. I think we're just not using the right cookie cutter here. We need to use a different cookie cutter for that. You know, if you're gonna call a home a cookie cutter, you could design a home here that would save this tree. And I feel so bad because I do appreciate their product, but I don't think that's what our ordinance is asking us to do. It's not out of the ordinary to have to work around a tree. That's very common, in fact. So my position is that I would support the appeal and deny the removal of the liquid amber. But again, you know, I want to have a full conversation and hear
You might
what others.
go back and forth
Yeah,
a time,
might.
so if, in case people want to amend their thoughts. Commissioner Felix.
I don't have a lot to add, and I thought the commissioner, and all three of you have brought up some real interesting points. I will say that I was very much on the fence with regards to it. I will add though, however, that our staff has been really, really good about evaluating things and doing everything they could to save trees. And very seldom have they come before us in a situation like this where they've recommended approval of removing a tree. So I just wanted to add that. And also the pervasive roots are a problem for me. Just looking at that root structure and where it's, no matter what you build on this property, they're gonna be a problem. Just because how deep they are with the sewer report and how shallow they are and sitting atop the property. So much of the root structure would have, no matter what type of house was being built on it, there's a significant amount of those roots are gonna have to be destroyed or adjust, cut back or whatever that are gonna have an effect on the tree. So that's all I can add really to what the three of you said, and I acknowledge what all of you have said as well.
Thank you. So my thoughts on this are, you know, as I look at the intent and the letter of the ordinance, I really think the ordinance is intended to support community interests. And it does state to do so, quote, with an emphasis on the intent to preserve heritage trees. And I too really applaud the developer for your sustainable housing work. Really appreciate your withdrawal of the other appeal. But I think we have a homeowner, not a resident, in this situation. And I think the attitudes of the community, many of whom, or several of whom have spoken as members of the public, kind of prevails in my opinion. And to that, and I think this has already been brought up, but this notion of reasonable and conforming, I too am of the opinion that reasonable also encompasses a reasonable attempt to preserve the tree on the property. And I too think that there are modifications that could happen that would allow that to happen. It's true that there is a reduced canopy on this street. It's also true that there remains a prevailing theme or pattern on Cuesta of the liquid ambars. And this is a stately, and I could almost say majestic tree. It is a big mature tree. I think its removal would be noticed, would really be a detriment to that pattern. I too have 3 liquid ambars in my front yard, and I've had to drill out my sewer a few times. So I know it does come with challenges. But I think I would side with the commissioners that although it's a really difficult call, side with the appellant and suggest efforts to preserve the tree. I listened to my fellow commissioners. I still would like to put a statement in the whatever motion about a variance, that I don't know if it has weight or not, but I'd like to give the developer at least a leg to stand on, and if they chose to pursue a variance option. I'm not sure if the building and code people would pay any attention to us, but I think we are an advisory body, and I'd like to advise. So that's my first cut at it, and I think we'll go through again and see if commissioners wanted to amplify or amend their comments.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just, circling back, again, I was open. I wanted to hear what people had to say. I guess, I'll just say that, to me, part of the conforming use is the ability to have a driveway, right? I mean, it's not necessarily just the house, it's an ability to have a driveway, right? I mean, not everybody on the street has it. I didn't check, but I think they probably have a driveway. So, and I guess, from what I've heard, anywhere you put that driveway, it's going to impact roots. That said, I guess I would be open to, kicking this down the road a little bit further and letting, a variance process play out. And if the variance doesn't get approved, then I assume, they still have the right to put in a driveway, and they'll put in a driveway, and we cross our fingers that the tree remains healthy, and maybe it does, and if it doesn't, I mean, I guess that's sort of the next step. So I'm open to preserving the tree for now, and seeing what can happen with best efforts to do that. Again, I can't predict what happens when a driveway gets built though, so.
Following the same order, did you want to go next?
Yes, so I'll when I was thinking about what my opinion was going to be, I usually tend to very much appreciate and respect staff's judgment. And this time I thought I wasn't going to go with staff's judgment, but I thought, what's the difference? The difference is that I completely trust staff on the health of the tree, the condition of the tree, the tree's chances of recovering, staying healthy, and all the rest. But in this case, it's not about the condition of the tree, it's about what is conforming use, what is needed improvements. And in this, I disagree with staff. We tend to have a lot of respect for building and the need to build, and I don't even remember how I voted about it, but some time ago, there was a wonderful tree, but the family really needed to improve their house, build some room for their kids. And so we agreed to have this beautiful tree in an area that doesn't have many trees go out, because this was their home. They needed a bigger house. This case is very different. Okay, there's a piece of property that's been built, that's been bought, and a house that they want to put in without regard really to what the street looks like, to what trees are there. So I feel that, in this case, I feel fine saying I disagree with staff. As far as I understood the conversation about driveways and routes, the trees that are at risk from the driveway, it's not the liquid amber, which can deal with some cutting of its roots. It's the oak and the camphor. Now, only one of these can possibly survive if we just let those two grow and take out the liquid amber. And to me, the liquid amber is more important because it's so much bigger. Somebody wants to plant another oak, I'll be cheering them on. But for now, for our life now, for the life of the neighborhood, this is a significant tree. I don't think we need to make, I agree with Mr. Summer, the variance is done for business. Our business is to say this request should be approved looking at the ordinance, or this request should not be approved looking at the ordinance. And in my opinion, the ordinance does not cover a case like this one, and so the appeal should be accepted, and staff decision should not be what we go with.
Mr. Summer, I think you were.
Yeah, as I was going through reviewing all the material, right at my initial reaction when I saw the site plan, before I really dug in too far, was, oh, we'll just mirror the house, flip it, because it would put the driveway on the left. And at that time I hadn't really read too much about what those other trees were, and then I got to the part where they were a modular construction approved by the state. They have one module. I think you're going to be needing to get the mirror also approved, because you will need it going forward, not just here. Yeah, I mean, we'd be talking about a whole nother situation. We'd probably be talking about removing the oak and or the camphor in order to allow them to do their drive. I don't know what to say. I think this needs probably to be customized in some way to make it fit a little bit better. One thought I have, and I don't know if it's even possible for us to, because I think there's a little more design work and some investigation into where the roots actually are and where they go, which is going to involve a little bit of digging around. Both in terms of the oak and camphor and in terms of the liquid amber, in order to better inform this choice that we seem to be forced into, like which one should we keep? Can we keep them all? We keep only one, keep only two, and we need more information, really. So it's almost like I would like to to make a decision that's without prejudice, so that they could return. I don't even know if that's allowable under our, rubric.
The code doesn't allow that.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, the thing that I keep thinking about is the precedent and the slippery slope, those 10,000 trees that are heaving the sidewalk, and the 2,000-ish that are clogging the sewer pipes, and what would stop me from applying to have my street taken down if we approve this. It's just a slippery slope.
So if I can jump in agreement with you.
Yeah.
I once went for an open house in a house in my neighborhood, and a really small house with a heritage tree in the back. And I heard the realtor say to people who seemed interested, well, you can always take the tree out. And this is a precedent that worries me. Just buy the property. Yes, there's a big oak tree in the middle, but you will just ask them to take out the tree because you want your big house.
As if the tree had no value.
Right. And this is a precedent that worries me. And so this seems like a case study for that. Just buy the property, take out the trees, put in the model that you have, which is why I can't agree.
Commissioner Fuels, any?
No,
further-
it just reminded me of what has always been a problem for me with regards to private properties versus commercial property or even apartment complexes like up the street on Ringstorp, where we have no say at all about the trees being taken out. But, you know, when we do on these, you know, so the consistency isn't there. And I don't know if that will change in the future, but I doubt it with the pressure on the council and the city to increase housing. But it reminds me of that as well, of that. I used to say, I'm searching for the word, but the problem that faces us.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, a lot of those get a whole different kind of public hearing that's not just talking about the trees, they're talking about the whole package, whereas we're just, spending an hour and a half talking about one tree. And it, in a way, it's kind of unfair because, you'll see entire sites cleared of all vegetation for a apartment or office.
Oh, it's totally frustrating. It's been frustrating us. It's been frustrating you and me since the first time. we were
Yeah,
here.
exactly, yes.
But this is what we have right now. This is a decision we have right now.
And I'll just make my comments. I think I agree with the general sentiments that I'm hearing. Sounds like Arrow is an incredible company that's doing really great sustainable technology, and I have full confidence in their innovation to maybe come up with a slightly better solution here. So I will be supporting any motion that what do I say this, agrees with the appeal of the appellant.
Commissioner Sandy, are you falling on your sword and doing it?
I don't know, it usually
Would you like
comes
me
down
to,
to you and
would
me,
you
huh?
like me to try to draft one, or if you like it, then you can make it?
That sounds fabulous. Why don't you give us
Love having
a nudge in the right direction? Template, yeah.
So we would, oh. Okay.
You should probably specify that it's the liquid amber at, yeah.
Take out the KGY.
Yeah, she's got.
Question Drive.
Yeah, it is edited out, it was escape.
So at Questa Drive, take out everything after 1158 Questa Drive for now. Okay, say, because the criteria for removal under MVCC 32.35 open paren 2 open parentheses 2 close parentheses regarding the necessity of removal of the heritage tree has not been met. Period. Like sufficiently.
And maybe continue on.
Once.
Yeah.
Approve the appeal and overturn staff's recommendation for removal of. And that's right, A2. So A should be in its own parentheses and then a new parentheses. It's A period paren. We'll get rid of the period there, sorry, no period.
Can I suggest the necessity of removal of heritage tree to allow the construction of improvements has not been met. That's what you're talking about, right?
If that's what you're talking about, sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think you mentioned two, so that's the subject of two.
Yeah, and let me just add. Sorry. Let's say comma at the end of that, has not been met, comma. And no other criteria for removal under NVCC 32.35 for removal exist.
So because the criteria for removal, okay, regarding necessity of removal for, in order to construct improvements,
The second to last
has
line.
not been met.
I'm sorry.
Removal of the heritage tree.
Yeah, right
Oh,
after removal.
to construct improvements.
Yeah, in order to construct improvements, that's what the two says.
I don't know
Construct
that.
improvements. You're right.
And then get rid of the heritage tree.
Get rid of it.
I mean, I guess you could put of the heritage tree removal
Up
in
to
there
removal.
3 times. The first criteria for removal, that's in the second line. We can put the of the heritage tree there. All right, so hopefully I'm not stealing
Yeah.
your thunder here, Dave. Well, I don't see it if we think it's clear.
Instead of exists, should say has been met.
Yeah, so have been met.
Instead of exist at the end of it.
Yeah, that's what I put on the
Commissioner Summer,
screen.
did you want to make a motion?
Do you want me to read it, or can we all refer to the screen?
Well, let's read it in case there's people online that can't access the
Yes.
screen.
Okay, yeah, so my motion is to, as shown on the screen, approve the appeal and overturn staff's recommendation for removal of one liquid amber heritage tree at 1158 Cuesta Drive, because the criteria for removal of the heritage tree under Mountain View City Code 3235A2 regarding the necessity of removal to construct improvements has not been met, and no other criteria for removal under Mountain View City Code 3235 have been met.
And I'll second that.
And maybe we call the vote.
Yes, Commissioner Bryant?
Yes.
Commissioner Helios?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mitchner?
Yes.
And Chair Davis.
Yes. All right,
So sorry.
thank you, everybody. Thank you very much to the applicant for participating in this process. Thanks, staff, for your work on these. Parting now, we have one further agenda item, which are staff announcements, updates, requests, and reports. So, Director Marshall.
We just gathered 2 weeks ago, so I don't have a lot of updates since then. We are scheduled to reconvene in August, and currently scheduled to see the urban biodiversity report plan draft. All right.
This was very.
Could we just, could we, I don't know if you have the ability right now, but our meetings in August and September, could you remind us?
Very nice piece.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Can you
We'll
confirm
be done
dates
pretty
for
soon,
August and
but
September
if I can
meetings?
call
I'll
over.
remind you of that, of the dates now.
Yes, please.
Let's see.
Or you could email it to us if that's more convenient, but just so we have our calendar straight, since we had proposed some and then some moved out.
Let's see, September is the 10th. And to confirm, August is the 13th.
13th, I think.
Here.
It's August 13th.
Still a lot in here. Oh my God.
August 13th and September 10th.
September, yeah.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes, I was walking through the Centennial Plaza, I guess it's called, in front of the train station. The roses there are dying. The trees look extremely unhappy. Is that on the city to maintain, or does VK do it?
Yes, it is our responsibility to maintain those areas. As far as the trees are going, I think we've already removed one that had fully died or fallen over or otherwise. But the intention is, as the fall comes around and we have a new planting season, we will reevaluate any of those, take out any additional ones we need to replant those. Roses, I'm not aware of, but I can definitely take a look.
The roses, everywhere the city has planted roses near my home, the roses are in really, they haven't leafed. And in the traffic circle on California in Castro, they are either dead or, well, they're not dead, but they're certainly dying. So there needs to be a reassessment of what those traffic circles look like, or what's causing them.
I was gonna say, absolutely, the traffic circles in particular, we've already kind of started to look at because some of them also contain lantana or otherwise that reach a height that it's an ongoing maintenance issue to maintain visibility or otherwise. And so absolutely, I appreciate it on the roses, but we will continue to look at all of those and kind of reevaluate to where we can maybe get some lower ground covers that aren't as.
Maybe the irrigation just isn't working. I mean, it used to be beautiful and this year it's awful.
Yeah, again, I can't answer that. Ultimately, that's under a different manager or supervisor that are kind of maintaining those. But I will follow up with them and we'll do what we can to get you some information.
If you'll hang on for one more second.
Yep.
You had made a comment regarding the trees at City Hall, the plaza at City Hall. We have, Russell had it on his list already and looking for a time to replant when more appropriate, not so hot. We're also providing some other options to city manager's office of other ways we could improve the aesthetics there as well.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Just make one final comment and go on the record to say I want to commend the city and the park supervisors. I'm aware of a number of neighborhood interactions with the local park supervisor, and the community responsiveness and orientation and cooperation is exceptional. In a city that's becoming more and more bureaucratic, I really appreciate the park supervisors that are working with the people. And the forestry guys are okay too.
Yeah.
So
We try,
we're still
working on it.
adjourn the meeting.